I exposed my sister's affair with my husband at our family reunion. A year later, they're having a baby, and my parents want me to play happy family. I, 32F, have been married to Alex, 34M, for 5 years. Our story began in college, where we met during a charity event. I was volunteering at a booth for animal rescue, and Alex came by to donate. We struck up a conversation about our shared love for dogs, and things just clicked. After graduation, we started dating seriously, and 3 years later, we tied the knot in a beautiful ceremony surrounded by friends and family. Growing up, my relationship with my older sister, Jenna, 35F, was always complicated. We're only 3 years apart, but it often felt like we were from different planets. Jenna was the outgoing, popular one, while I was more introverted and focused on my studies. Our parents, both hardworking middle-class folks, always tried to treat us equally, but Jenna seemed to resent me for some reason. I remember one incident when I was 14 and Jenna was 17. I had just won a regional science fair, and my parents took us out to celebrate. Throughout the dinner, Jenna kept making snide remarks about how being a nerd wouldn't get me anywhere in life. When my parents scolded her, she stormed out of the restaurant. It was supposed to be my special night, but it ended with everyone feeling miserable. This pattern continued throughout our teenage years and into adulthood. When I got into a prestigious university, Jenna suddenly decided she wanted to go to college too, even though she had always said higher education wasn't for her. She applied to the same school but didn't get in, which only seemed to fuel her resentment. When I introduced Alex to my family, Jenna's reaction was strange. She was overly friendly with him, almost flirtatious, which made me uncomfortable. But Alex assured me it was nothing, and I wanted to believe him. After all, despite our differences, Jenna was my sister. I never thought she would betray me in the worst possible way. Last year, I started noticing changes in Alex's behavior. He was always on his phone, working late and being secretive. At first, I brushed it off. Alex had recently started a new job at a tech startup, and I thought he was just stressed and adjusting to the new workload. But as weeks turned into months, my suspicions grew. I hate to admit it, but I eventually broke down and snooped through his phone one night while he was asleep. What I found shattered my world. There were hundreds of messages between Alex and Jenna, dating back several months. They were clearly having an affair. The messages were explicit and left no room for doubt. I felt sick to my stomach. Not only was my husband cheating on me, but he was doing it with my own sister. I didn't confront them immediately. A part of me hoped it was all a misunderstanding, that there was some logical explanation. But deep down, I knew the truth. I decided to gather more evidence. I installed a hidden camera in our living room and bedroom. I know it's not legal, but I was desperate. Over the next few weeks, I caught them in the act multiple times when I was supposed to be at work. Each time I watched the footage, I felt a piece of my heart die. The two people I should have been able to trust the most in this world had betrayed me in the worst possible way. I thought about the family dinners where Jenna would sit across from me, smiling and asking about my life, all while sleeping with my husband behind my back. I thought about the nights Alex would come home late, claiming he was working, when in reality he had been with my sister. I was devastated and angry. My first instinct was to confront them, to scream and shout and demand answers. But a part of me wanted revenge. I wanted them to feel the same pain and humiliation I was feeling. So, I waited until our annual family reunion, which was scheduled a month later. All our relatives would be there, including our parents, aunts, uncles, and cousins. The family reunion had always been a big deal in our family. It was a tradition started by our grandparents decades ago, a way to keep the family close despite distance and busy lives. This year, it was being held at my parents' house, the same house where Jenna and I had grown up. On the day of the reunion, I acted normal. I helped my mom set up the food, laughed at my dad's bad jokes, and even managed to make small talk with Jenna and Alex. My heart was pounding the entire time, knowing what was about to happen. When everyone had gathered in the living room after dinner, I asked for their attention. I said I had a special video to share of Alex and me. My Aunt Sandra, always the romantic, gushed about how sweet it was that we had made a couples video. If only she knew. Instead of a sweet couples video, I played the compilation of Alex and Jenna's encounters on the big screen TV. The room went silent. People gasped. My mom dropped the plate of cookies she was holding. My dad's face turned a shade of red I'd never seen before. Alex and Jenna tried to run, but my cousins, reacting on instinct, blocked the exit. I calmly explained everything I had discovered, showing the text messages as further proof. I described how long it had been going on, how they had lied to my face for months. The aftermath was chaotic. My parents were in tears. Some relatives were yelling at Alex and Jenna, while others were trying to comfort me. My Uncle Bob, who had always been protective of me, had to be held back from punching Alex. Alex begged for forgiveness, saying it was a mistake and that he loved me. He claimed Jenna had seduced him, that he had been weak. Jenna, on the other hand, tried to blame me. She said I neglected Alex, that I was cold and unloving, and that's why he turned to her. Her words stung, but I refused to let them see me cry. I filed for divorce the next day. Most of my family supported me, but my parents were torn. They were angry at Jenna and Alex, but also upset that I had exposed everything so publicly. They said I should have handled it privately to avoid embarrassing the family. But I stood my ground. I told them that Alex and Jenna were the ones who should be embarrassed, not me. It's been a month since the incident. Alex moved out, and I haven't spoken to Jenna since. Some family members think I went too far by exposing them at the reunion. They say I could have confronted them privately and spared the family the embarrassment. But I don't regret my actions. I believe they deserve to be exposed for their betrayal. Every day is a struggle. I wake up and for a split second, I forget what happened. Then reality comes crashing down, and the pain feels fresh all over again. But I'm trying to stay strong. I'm focusing on my job, spending time with friends who have been supportive, and trying to rebuild my life. I know the road ahead will be tough. The divorce proceedings will be messy, and family gatherings will be awkward for years to come. But I refuse to let Alex and Jenna's actions define me. I refuse to be a victim. So, Reddit, AITA, for exposing my sister's affair with my husband in front of our entire family? Update 1. It's been 3 months since my last post, and a lot has happened. First, I want to thank everyone for their support and advice. Your words have been a lifeline during some of my darkest moments. The divorce proceedings are underway, and it's been a roller coaster of emotions. Alex initially tried to contest it, claiming that I violated his privacy by recording him without consent. My lawyer, a tough-as-nails woman named Melissa, advised me that while the recordings might not be admissible in court, the text messages were enough evidence for a fault-based divorce. When Alex realized he had no chance of reconciliation or winning in court, he agreed to an uncontested divorce. But that doesn't mean he's made it easy. He's been trying to manipulate me emotionally, sending long emails about how sorry he is and how much he misses me. One day he's begging for forgiveness. The next he's angry and blaming me for ruining his life. It's exhausting. Jenna, on the other hand, has been relentless in her attempts to paint herself as the victim. She's been spreading lies about me to anyone who will listen. According to her, I was the one who drove Alex away with my cold and unloving behavior, and she was just comforting him. She even tried to convince our parents that I had known about the affair all along and only exposed it for attention. Her behavior has brought back memories of our childhood that I had long forgotten, like the time when I was 16 and had my first serious boyfriend. Jenna, who was 19 at the time, went out of her way to flirt with him whenever she was around. I confronted her about it, and she laughed it off, saying I was being paranoid. 2 weeks later, I found out she had kissed him at a party. History really does repeat itself. Speaking of our parents, they're still struggling to cope with everything. Mom is devastated and barely leaves the house anymore. She's always been a social butterfly, involved in various community activities. Now she cancels plans at the last minute and spends most of her time watching old movies in her room. Dad tries to put on a brave face, but I can see how much this has affected him. His hair seems to have gone grayer in the past few months, and the lines on his face have deepened. They've been going to family counseling, trying to understand how things got to this point. Last week, I ran into Alex at a local cafe. It was the first time I had seen him in person since the family reunion. He looked terrible. Unshaven, dark circles under his eyes, clothes wrinkled like he had slept in them. For a moment, I felt a pang of the old feelings I used to have for him. Then he started talking. He begged me to give him another chance, saying he had made the biggest mistake of his life. He said he missed our life together, our inside jokes, the way I always knew how to calm him down when he was stressed. As he spoke, I could almost see the man I fell in love with. Almost. But then I remembered the footage of him with Jenna. The lies. The betrayal. I told him that he made his choice when he decided to sleep with my sister, and now he has to live with the consequences. The hardest part of all this has been the loneliness. I've lost my husband and my sister in one fell swoop. Even though they betrayed me, there are moments when I miss having them in my life. I miss the easy conversations Alex and I used to have over dinner. I miss calling Jenna to gossip about our favorite TV shows. But then I remember what they did, and the anger comes rushing back. I've started seeing a therapist to help me process everything. Her name is Dr. Chen, and she's been incredibly helpful. It's been good to have someone to talk to who isn't involved in the situation. She's been helping me work through my trust issues and teaching me how to set boundaries. We've been exploring my childhood and my relationship with Jenna, trying to understand the root of our issues. One positive thing that's come out of this mess is that I've reconnected with some old friends. My college roommate Sarah reached out after hearing what happened. We hadn't spoken in years, but it was like no time had passed. She's been incredibly supportive, inviting me out and making sure I'm not isolating myself. It's reminded me that family isn't just about blood relations. As for the relatives who thought I went too far with the public exposure, most of them have come around. My Aunt Linda, who initially criticized me, called to apologize. She said she reacted out of shock, but now understands why I did what I did. She shared that her own husband had cheated on her years ago, and she wished she had had the courage to stand up for herself the way I did. I'm taking things one day at a time. Some days are better than others. I'm focusing on my career and have thrown myself into a big project at work. We're developing a new software that could revolutionize the way small businesses handle their accounting. It's challenging and exciting, and it helps keep my mind off everything else. I still stand by my decision to expose Alex and Jenna. Yes, it was dramatic and public, but I believe they needed to face the consequences of their actions. The truth would have come out eventually, and at least this way, I was able to control the narrative. I refuse to be ashamed or to let them make me feel like I'm the one who did something wrong. As I navigate this new chapter of my life, I'm trying to focus on the future. I'm rediscovering who I am as an individual, not as Alex's wife or Jenna's sister. It's scary, but also liberating. I'm learning to trust myself again, to believe in my own strength and resilience. Whatever comes next, I know I can handle it. Update 2. It's been 6 months since my last update, and life has taken some unexpected turns. The divorce is finally finalized, and I'm officially a single woman again. It's a bittersweet feeling. Relief mixed with sadness for what could have been. I keep thinking about the life Alex and I had planned together, the children we talked about having, the house we wanted to buy. It's strange to think that none of that will happen now, at least not with him. Alex moved out of state for a new job. I heard through mutual friends that he's been struggling to adjust to his new life. Apparently, he's been drinking a lot and has already been warned about his performance at work. Part of me feels a twisted sense of satisfaction knowing he's unhappy, but mostly I just feel indifferent. He's no longer a part of my life, and I'm okay with that. Jenna, on the other hand, has been causing more drama. She showed up at my workplace last month, making a scene in the lobby. She was crying and screaming about how I had ruined her life, how I had turned the family against her. My coworkers were shocked. I hadn't told many of them about what had happened. Security had to escort her out, and my boss called me into his office afterwards. I ended up having to explain the whole sordid story. Thankfully, he was understanding, but it was humiliating to have my personal life on display like that. I've since filed a restraining order against Jenna. It breaks my heart that it's come to this, but I need to protect myself. The day I went to the courthouse to file the paperwork, I ran into our childhood neighbor, Mrs. Peterson. She asked how Jenna and I were doing, saying she always thought we were such close sisters. I didn't have the heart to tell her the truth, so I just mumbled something about us both being busy with work. It made me think about all the times Jenna and I had played in Mrs. Peterson's yard as kids, how she would bring us cookies and lemonade on hot summer days. How did we go from that to this? Our parents are still caught in the middle of all this. Mom's health has taken a turn for the worse. The stress of everything has exacerbated her heart condition. She was hospitalized last week, and it was touch and go for a while. I spent nights sitting by her hospital bed, holding her hand and remembering all the times she had done the same for me when I was sick as a child. Thankfully, she's stable now, but the doctors have warned her to avoid stress. Dad is trying his best to keep the family together, but it's a losing battle. He's been calling me regularly, trying to convince me to reconcile with Jenna for Mom's sake. I've told him repeatedly that while I'm willing to be civil for family gatherings, I will never trust Jenna again. It's hard to hear the disappointment in his voice, but I have to stand my ground. On a more positive note, I've started dating again. Nothing serious yet, just casual coffee dates. It's been nice to feel attractive and wanted again. Last week, I went out with a guy named Tom. We met at a local bookstore. He reached for the same book I was about to grab. We ended up talking for hours about our favorite authors. It was nice to have a conversation that didn't revolve around my past drama. Work has been a great distraction. I got a promotion last month, which has kept me busier than ever. I'm now leading a team on that software project I mentioned in my last update. It's challenging, but I'm enjoying the responsibility. I'm grateful for the distraction and the sense of accomplishment it brings. I've also started volunteering at a local women's shelter. It started as a way to get out of the house and stop wallowing in my own problems, but it's become so much more than that. Helping other women who have been through difficult situations has been incredibly rewarding and has given me a new perspective on my own problems. Last week, I helped a woman about my age move into her own apartment after leaving an abusive relationship. Seeing her smile as she looked around her new place, knowing she was safe, was one of the best feelings I've had in a long time. As for the family reunion incident, it's become something of a cautionary tale in our extended family. I overheard my cousin telling her teenage daughter to be careful who you trust, or you might end up like Alex and Jenna. It's not the legacy I would have chosen, but if it prevents someone else from going through what I did, then maybe some good came out of this mess after all. Update 3. It's been a year since my original post, and it feels like a lifetime ago. So much has changed, and yet some things remain frustratingly the same. The biggest news is that I'm moving. I got a fantastic job offer in another state, and after much consideration, I decided to take it. It's a chance for a fresh start, away from all the painful memories and family drama. The company I'll be working for is developing cutting-edge AI technology, and they want me to lead their software development team. It's an incredible opportunity, both professionally and personally. Packing up my life here has been an emotional process. Every object seems to hold a memory, good or bad. I found an old photo album from my wedding tucked away in a closet. Seeing those happy faces, completely unaware of what the future held, brought tears to my eyes. I ended up donating most of the wedding gifts and mementos. It felt cathartic, like I was finally letting go of that chapter of my life. Speaking of letting go, there's been some major family drama recently. Jenna is pregnant. Yes, you read that right. And yes, it's Alex's. They're not together. Apparently, it happened during one of their weak moments after the divorce. They told the family last month, and it's thrown everyone into chaos again. I found out through a tearful phone call from my mom. She was barely coherent, alternating between excitement about becoming a grandmother and despair over the circumstances. Dad got on the phone and tried to smooth things over, saying that maybe this baby could bring the family back together. I had to bite my tongue to stop myself from screaming. Mom had another health scare when she heard the news. The shock and stress were too much for her heart. She's stable now, but the doctors have warned that she needs to avoid stress. It's ironic. The very thing that's causing her stress is the thing she's most excited about. As for me, I'm still processing this new development. Part of me is angry that they're bringing a child into this mess. Another part feels sorry for the baby, who didn't ask to be born into such a complicated situation. Mostly, I just feel tired of it all. I've decided that for my own mental health, I need to distance myself from this situation. I've told my parents that while I love them, I won't be involved in anything to do with Jenna or Alex's child. It might seem harsh, but I need to prioritize my own healing. I can't be the aunt this child deserves, and it's better to step away now than to half-heartedly try and inevitably disappoint everyone. On a brighter note, I've been seeing someone for a few months now. His name is Mark, and we met at a tech conference. He's kind, funny, and most importantly, honest. He knows about my past and has been incredibly understanding and patient. It's still early days, but for the first time in a long time, I'm excited about the future. Mark has been a huge support as I prepare for my move. He's helped me pack, listened to me vent about family drama, and even offered to drive with me to my new city to help me get settled. His kindness and genuine care for me have been a balm to my battered heart. As I pack up my life here and prepare for my move, I can't help but reflect on everything that's happened. A year ago, I thought my life was over. I had lost my husband, my sister, and my sense of trust in one fell swoop. There were days when I could barely get out of bed, when the pain and betrayal felt like a physical weight crushing me. But here I am, a year later, about to start a new job in a new city. I'm in a healthy relationship with a man who respects me. I've rediscovered my passion for my work and found new purpose in volunteering. It hasn't been an easy journey, and I know there will still be tough days ahead, but I'm proud of how far I've come. To everyone who's followed my story and offered support, thank you. Your kind words and advice have meant more than you know. Here's to new beginnings and leaving the past where it belongs, in the past. As I close this chapter of my life, I'm filled with a mix of emotions: hope, anxiety, excitement, and a tinge of sadness. But mostly I feel strong. Whatever challenges lie ahead, I know I can face them. After all, I've already survived the worst betrayal imaginable. Everything else is just a bump in the road.